Welcome, everybody, to PinstripeChronicles. I am Tats. I'm here with Donald, Lynn, and Chris today. So we have the full Upper Deck lineup. And Rob has the day off. Good for him. He needs it. And the other, the people that need the day off or continue to take the day off is the Yankee offense. And their bats have gone so quiet.
Good segue.
Thank you. Don't take me off the rails today, please.
I will. You know it will happen.
It's been a long week.
It's already happened. It's already happened.
There you go. See, this is what you get.
You brought it up.
It's almost like there's a no brooms allowed in the Yankee organization because they struggled to sweep series the last couple of years. I think they're 3-9 last year in games going for a sweep. That is not good if you want to be considered a championship caliber team. And Chris, just to get you in on the week's discussions, what do you think the biggest, crutch is that they can't finish these series off?
Well, the problem is that the offense is so inconsistent that even when they get good pitching, like they did yesterday from Montgomery, the offense doesn't come through with run support to win the game. I mean, and that's a whole nother can of worms we can talk about as the show goes on as to why the Yankee offense isn't producing. But that seems to me the most likely scenario.
Yep. Donald, what did you think who was the biggest culprit of preventing the runs in that lineup?
Yeah. Forget no brooms allowed. How about no bats allowed in the Yankee organization? This is our third shutout. And we're only 3 weeks into the year. Even if it is 3 weeks. I don't think it's one person. I think it's a collective. I think it's the lineup as a whole, with barring one or two exemptions. I mean, you go through the whole roster. I mean, Gashioka's batting 0.97. He's slowly being displaced by Trevino. Donaldson is batting in the 170s up to 190, I believe now. Gallo, I would say, is probably the biggest disaster. I mean, you're looking at somebody that has 0 RBIs.
That's right.
0 extra base hits at this point in the year, which is unprecedented. Especially for a middle of the order bat. I mean, that's absolutely incredible. So I would say he's probably the biggest culprit, but you go through it. I mean, Aaron Hicks is one of our worst hitters and runners in scoring position. He's up, I think he's a 111 batting average for runners in scoring position. And he's actually been our more productive bat, which is hilarious, but with runners in scoring position, he's bad. And that really sums it up I think, you could probably take LeMahieu and Rizzo out of the conversation. The rest of them have Stanton started hot, but he's just going through a cold stretch. He'll heat up, no problem. And I'm sure it's the same with Judge.
I was going to point out Stanton because he's the first 2 games he was hot, and since then it's not been pretty.
Yeah.
I was doing the numbers this morning, and it's like he had 13 in the last 7 games. He's had 13 strikeouts.
Wow.
Like he's striking out more than Gallo at the moment.
Oh my God.
That's not good.
Realize that. Wow.
Yeah. And then there's Gleyber Torres. We can't forget about Gleyber Torres. He's hitless for forever.
Yes.
He's to the point where we can't even afford to have him playing at the moment. He's just bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's almost. I mean, we know that Gallo got the hit late in the game last night, so that secures him for the lineup tonight. Because now he's, that's considered a hot streak for the Yankees. So, Boone's like, well, he's turning the corner because he got a hit.
He needs a day of rest. He definitely after that hit.
Yeah.
Do you think, Pineda was pretty monstrous on the bump yesterday? Do you think? I know you have that. Or was he, or was it because we're so not monstrous?
I think it's more us than him.
I would say so. I mean, Pineda looks like he's had one too many
Well-
enchiladas, to be honest.
Exactly.
Well,
He's packing it on, and the Yankees are just, I don't even know what they are right now. They're on a offense-free diet right now.
It's the problem. See, that's what made it even more frustrating. Not the
Right.
fact that it was the Tigers, because roster aside, their leadership. When you have AJ Hinch in your dugout leading your team, you're gonna win more than you're supposed to lose. So, because he knows how to push the right buttons. And
Right.
when you have somebody with like Michael Pineda that was on the mound last night, who was just it was his first start after a couple of rehab stints.
Yes.
And the Yankee and all the names that are in the Yankee lineup. I'm not even going to say productive names, just names, because they're not productive.
Right.
It was set up to be a very easy sweep of a series, and Michael Pineda was looking like Nestor Cortez yesterday.
And that's why I started it the way it was. Was he really that much? He was.
No, it's just
monstrous, or
our
wasn't
offense.
he?
Our offense just sucks. There's no other way to describe it. It's terrible. There's, and I don't see any end in sight of this drought of runs.
We've scored 27 less runs than the Oakland A's, who are who are getting less attendance than minor league teams. There are teams in like Double-A that are getting.
The other day, the
attendance.
A's. I don't even think they cracked 4,000 people in that park.
No, I think there's like 2,000. I think they are on a fan protest right now because they traded their entire team. All their good players gone, traded, and they've scored 27 more runs than the Yankees, who are apparently a World Series roster. It's embarrassing, man. I mean, look at it. We're tied for 27th in RBIs, third bottom in RBIs, and 25th in runs. You go through it. It's unbelievable. We've got I think we've got basically the same OPS as Baltimore. I think they're on 298. I think we're 301 slugging. So you just go through the stats. It's ugly. We're right down with the worst teams in baseball. It's actually amazing that we've got a winning record because let's be honest, I think the way we've hit, we probably deserve to maybe have 1 or 2 wins at most. So the fact we're 7-6, you could maybe say that it's a positive. I mean, we've got the third best ERA in the majors, 2.58. With our pitching staff has been unbelievable. Without our pitching staff, if our pitching staff was just okay, then we'd be bottom of the division. We'd be in with Cincinnati as the worst team in baseball right now. So it's incredible that we're 7-6, but it's still bad. It feels like for me, it feels like we're like over. It feels like we've got no wins. That's just how it feels to me. It's just like the team just look broken, and I'm really worried.
Well, that was one of the points we brought up yesterday, is the fact that they haven't had that game where we could just sit back and enjoy it. It's been a nail biter, inning by inning, bat by bat, pitch by pitch, and the pitching. To their credit, they are really shutting down the narrative that the pitching has been the problem. It's really the offense. And it continues to shine on this. The spotlight continues to show on the offense. When there's 3 shutouts in the first few weeks of the season, is completely unacceptable for any team whatsoever. Never mind just the Yankees.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Lynn, you wanted to say something?
Chris was.
Chris?
Oh, yeah. I wanted to ask whether or not you guys thought that the dead ball has anything to do with the lack of offense, not just for the Yankees, but I guess that it's affecting across the league, that the scores are lower. I don't know. Certainly the Yankees are not getting their power. They're not hitting the home runs, and they're striking out a lot. But unless you're Isaiah Kenner-Falefa, and then you're doing the in-between and being successful. But what do you think? Is the ball partly to blame?
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, offense is down around the league. There's no question about it. The averages are down amongst all of baseball. I believe that I did come across a stat today where, the league as a whole, batting average is way down. I understand that, but I'm very worried about giving credence to this because Brian Cashman doesn't need any more excuses
You're right.
to
That's
excuse
true.
himself. So I would try not to put too much credence into it, because then Brian Cashman will use this as an excuse as soon as he can by summer, going, oh, well, the whole league is down as a whole. We're not playing up to our potential, but I still think we're wonderful, blah, 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 and then roll out the same nonsense as before. The problem is the Yankee lineup. It's just not a very
Well, the cross argument.
The lineup is broken. But yes, the ball is slightly dead end, but I don't want to put credence to it because Brian Cashman needs no excuse.
Right.
No, because you could flip the switch and just say, maybe, because they want to keep throwing Gleyber Torres into every, they want to continue playing him in the field. They want to continue putting him in the lineup, that he was some great ball player. Meanwhile, his only good year was the juice ball year. So maybe Gleyber just isn't that good a ball player. So Cashman's got to be careful where he throws the excuses around, because you can spin them right back at him.
These numbers are ugly. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So I'm not trying to be the optimist here. So speaking to my friend Donald, because I know where he stands. But who's been optimistic on Twitter is our friend Jed Weisberger, who always tries to be the voice of reason. Donald, I see you. I hear you, although you're saying nothing. Girl, I said, but he had a point, or not, that, we haven't lost a series yet. So we haven't swept, but we haven't been swept either. And his point was, as long as the division keeps doing the same, we have just as much of a shot, despite our poor performance so far, at climbing up in the standings and going further into the postseason than we even think we might have a shot at. Yeah. So while in the moment I'm right there in the pessimism, abyss with everybody, but I don't know. I guess it's a matter of luck that everyone's sucking right now, for the most part. But, he did have a point that, in context, we haven't been taken entirely.
On that individual point, he's not wrong.
No,
on that individual point, he is right. But it is very early. I fully believe that Toronto will heat up and Tampa Bay will beat Tampa Bay. And we're all kind of right there with each other. So, I mean, that in that respect, he isn't wrong. But I will also say that he thought that Brian Cashman had an awesome offseason. And he said that Kiner Falefa is a better shortstop than Correa, which is absolutely fundamentally not true. Right. And he thought that Brian Cashman did a wonderful job this offseason, which is why I was shaking my head so profusely, because everybody knows if you just took some truth serum, Brian Cashman had a horrible offseason. And I think he knows he had a horrible offseason, which is why he's so defensive. That's why I was shaking my head there. Yeah. But
I get it.
There's nothing wrong with being optimistic. I mean, you can either look at glass half full, glass half empty. Glass half full is 7-6, despite having the worst offense probably in the last 3, possibly 4 decades. This is the worst offense probably certainly my lifetime. It's the very worst offense I've ever seen. And so that would make me think that this team is broken and would probably finish 3rd in the division. That's the glass half empty. Glass half full is we're 7-6. We've got 2.58 ERA and we're right there in the division. And maybe some of them might come together and we might get a wild card out of it. It's probably the glass half full way of looking at it at the moment. But I mean, we can only go by the sample size. Well, a lot changes, but at the moment, that's where I am.
I think part of the glass half full argument can also attribute to the fact that we're seeing a lot more consistency with the top of the lineup. He's not really juggling the players around too much. He's been consistent with Hicks, leading off, which, we said the other day we were okay with.
Or 3.
Judge, we know Judge is going to be in the 2 spot. I think we'll see it, but I think we're going to see Hicks in the leadoff a lot more than you're not. So it's been the same 4 or 5 players at the top of the lineup. So it's I think it's just a matter of time before this offense does click. They just need to do it before the rest of the American League East does, because like what Donald was saying, it's not like they're running away with it either. But at the same time, you don't want to wait to be the last one at the party, because then the division may be out of reach by then. Because whether it's us, Tampa Bay, Boston, or Toronto, they can go on a win streak and really just get a little cushion for themselves to have that, a series hiccup that maybe they lose a series or get swept themselves and not hurt them in the standings. The Yankees have the talent and they have the names. I can't even say talent right now. They have the names in the organization to propel them to have that streak. They just have not been able to show that they care enough.
And I think that's part of the frustration, is because on paper, we're the powerhouse, organization, and that's just not playing out, no pun intended.
Right.
And so we have the Stantons and the Judges and the LeMahieu's, and we see Rizzo really breaking out at this point, but it really means nothing, what's on paper. And so that's the frustration to me, is not so much the Glaber, because I've learned how to manage my expectations about him. It's about the ones that we've always relied upon, and what we're not seeing, which was my point the other day about Judge.
We're not getting power right now. The balls are not going out. I think Rizzo leads the team with 4, right?
Yep.
It seems like they're like warming up or something to a big bang, because so far nobody's had that big bang moment. But they will. We know Judge and Stanton will do that. But the other part of that is, will Gallo, Donaldson, Torres, will these guys raise their performance at all in the lower part of the order to complement? These things have to be, that's why it's so important that the lineups stay the same for days on end, so that they get comfortable with where they are in the lineup and what their role is.
Torres hits like Torres now. That's a funny.
Yeah,
that was a funny.
I can't believe I made that was a Freudian slip.
No, it was actually dead on.
It was dead on. In fact, I think I prefer Torres right now. All of you actually make some great points. So, Tats, you're right about the consistency at the top of the lineup in general. If you want to look at some of the positives, that is certainly positive. I feel that Stanton, Judge, LeMahieu, and Rizzo are 4 guys that would be ideal in any team in the majors. I think they're great. If you want to look at the fact that where we're at, yes, it can only go up from here. It's not going to get any worse from here. But I don't actually, considering all of last year and the shortened season, and the way that we're constituted, I don't see any upside. I think we're just going to have. I think it's going to be the same team as last year, where we're going to be hot for 2 weeks and then quiet for a month, and then hot for 2 weeks and then quiet for a month. And I think that's the way the lineup is. But I do think that Judge and Stanton will hit. I think we're on course for a big season from Rizzo, and I think we're on course for a 300 batting average from LeMahieu. It's everything after that.
It's the
is what worries me.
Yeah,
is everything after those guys in the lineup, which really concerns me. I just don't think that there's enough upside at all. I think Joey Gallo will hit some home runs, but it's clear that he's got some mental issues with the Yankees. Like, he just seems like the pressure is getting to him.
He needs some mental days off to just really. He needs. Sometimes like we take mental health days off from work. I think that's where Gallo is leading. I think that's where he's heading. I think he needs to just step away from the game first. Take a series off, stay home. Take a quick leave, because if it's right in front of you, that's all you're going to be thinking about is how you haven't been able to do anything. Sometimes taking that step away from your job serves you better than trying to grind it out.
I just don't know if he's going to turn that around. I just don't see it, Lynn.
And I think that's what they've been doing. That's what their attempt was with sitting him the other day. And just to go back to what you were saying, Donald, and it's right. We have a top of a lineup that hit for power. We have a middle of the lineup guy who thinks that's all he does and all he should be doing, and who sat the other day. But we also can't discount the ones that we can rely on for getting on base. And again, even with the small sample size, I think we need to look at both when we're assessing the lineup. I think it's only fair to say, and I know IKF is kind of becoming my new guardy, but there's no comparison between the two. But in the fact that no one's really putting him forward as a good contribution so far to the team.
That's true.
And we've had this small ball discussion a lot lately. We obviously need to focus and leverage that as much as possible, because that's the only traction we've gotten. And so, I just think we should be cautious about focusing all of our demands on the power.
Oh yeah.
And counter it with the value of, getting productive men on base. Now our RISP numbers would slap me in the face right now, but there has been more success with getting some men on base than there has been with the power out of park stuff. So I'm just putting that in as a counterpoint, and Hicks has been part of that as well.
Yeah, but our batting average is still amongst the worst in the majors. It's still 25th. So I mean, it's still right down at the bottom. It's actually one of the worst teams. We're still one of the worst teams in the majors at getting people on base.
What.
Yeah, exactly.
We stink no matter what, but where would we be if we didn't get some of those, those smaller hits into play?
I think it's interesting that, for example, Judge has he even hit a home run yet this season?
Yeah,
one.
I didn't think so either, Chris. One. I learned that yesterday.
It's that he's getting hits. He's 3 for 11 against Detroit. It's not great, but he's getting hits. But fans are really anti-Judge. Probably some of that's a hangover from the contract.
A lot of
it. Also, when he's just hitting singles, that's not good enough. Fans are not, they don't appreciate Judge who makes contact. And I think, we should see that Judge, along with LeMahieu, I mean, he's not hitting quite as high up, quite as high an average as LeMahieu at the moment, but he is getting on. He's getting on base.
But it's not as exciting. You don't have a hashtag for a double.
No, that's true. And he does.
No, I love extra base hits, but the Yankees don't hit any.
No, but I'm saying, we have our all rise, and it's all about the home run, and I acknowledge that. It's not like you get a double and everyone's hashtagging IKF for it.
I know.
So, and it's the entertainment value.
But there's nobody in the roster which is getting extra speed. We've got 0 triples this year, so we don't really have a lot of speed. Don't really have a lot of athleticism, and we don't really have enough guys that make contact. So that's the problem. So you're going to get some home runs, but it's everyone coming together and working as a team to get on base and trust each other and hit extra base hits, hit doubles in the gap. That's just something that seems to be lacking, and I just don't see the upside there because there's just not enough guys that actually are capable of doing it. Right. And that's a real worry. That's why I never wanted Joey Gallo in the first place. That's why I wanted him traded in the offseason, because we needed another bat that can hit for a higher average and it can just make contact consistently. And that's what we really needed to tie everything together. So that's why I don't really see any upside with this lineup. The power numbers will come back as the weather gets better and the sunshine starts hitting consistently. on the East Coast that, yeah, we'll start hitting home runs, but I just don't see the batting average getting too much better because this is an organizational philosophy and this is the way that Cashman's put together his team,
You're right.
which is just a really bad constitution. And here, another thing regarding the pitching, it's really weird that we have a 2.58 ERA. We've got such a strong bullpen, but Loizaga, who's our best arm in the bullpen, hasn't had a great year yet. And Garrett Cole, who's our ace, is actually pitching like our fifth.
Yeah.
So how would you view our pitching? Would you look at that? Because, most likely the other arms will start to calm down a little bit and approach the mean, and then what would it do to our offense if our pitching just doesn't pitch like lights out every single night? But then you look at the other side of the coin, Garrett Cole is due to pitch like he's always pitched through most of his career. So maybe that evens up as well. How would you view the pitching? Do you think it's...
Well, I think Garrett Cole's a slow starter. I've read that he has like a 5.69 ERA through April or something. So, I mean, unless Cole has some injury that we don't know about, or like dead arm or something, I think Cole's going to come around. I still think he'll give up those first inning home runs. It's like mental block for him.
Yeah.
He just does. But that notwithstanding, he can still, have a kick-ass season. As for the rest of the starting pitching, I think it's been phenomenal. And without it, we'd be much worse off than we are now. And just keep your fingers crossed they all stay healthy. Because you're right, the bullpen, it's going to come down to earth. They're going to be more, league average probably as time goes on. They're hot right now, though. So the Yankees are in a good position with their pitching and in a bad position with their offense. They're Jekyll and Hyde right now.
The fact we got the third best ERA with our two best orbs, Garrett Cole and Loizaga, in my opinion, and certainly the bullpen in terms of rotation, not pitching up to what they'd normally expect is probably a good sign. So, I think the pitching looks like it's going to be really good as long as it stays healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Loizaga really, he had that one bad outing that inflated his ERA, but I'm not worried too much about Loizaga. He's shown that he can, last through the season. He'll have a hiccup here or there, just like any pitcher would. But I think 99% of the time he's a pitcher you could rely on.
Say anything.
Tats, let Lynn speak. I asked Lynn.
Oh, well, and that's why he said Lynn. But anyway, I think that it's unfortunate that they're not being backed up by the offense, because I haven't seen, a single bad performance by our starters. JMO struggled a bit, but he's another one that, needs to settle to get his stride. So, no concerns there. But, I also think part of the issue and concern for me is, and it lends itself to what you're saying about the bullpen and that they're not necessarily going to stay so stellar right now, is that they're being overworked. And it seems to me not always necessarily. I think that they've been pulling some of the starters too soon. Not that I disagree with when they pulled Sevy, but sometimes you have to trust your pitchers. And he felt he could go one more, and there was no evidence to the contrary on that. And had they let him go one more, and after the first batter it was starting to look shaky, then you could pull him. But I don't understand the extra caution I'm seeing this year with keeping them in that kind of a bubble. And you have longevity guys. Nestor will pitch 83 innings if you let him, and he'll do it consistently. So, we're taking the money that's in the bank, and it's good money, and it's trending upwards, and we're the ones diminishing its own value, possibly.
Ooh, nice.
And that has me concerned, and are they being, is the stellar factor the fact that they're actually pitching more than our starters and more regularly? And so I just
Bringing the fire. I actually like what you're saying there, because I've always been the one to trust starters. I like, if a starter's pitching well, I prefer to give them a little bit more extra length, because you can't just manage by stats and binders. Even if the matchup looks wonderful for a bullpen arm, you can't guarantee that bullpen arm, every single new bullpen arm each inning is suddenly each of them are going to pitch to their level. You can't guarantee that. But what you do know is if your starter's pitching well, you can probably trust that he's going to get the job done, even the third time through the order. There should be more trust in that. But I know that I'm old school and get off my lawn type with that. But I've always kind of viewed it that way.
I'm even older school, so yeah. It should be current school.
Yeah, not as old as Tats, of course, but
I knew that was coming.
Tats is stats and Tats is Tats.
I'm being mean. I'm sorry.
I have this friend who keeps telling me that the Yankees are trying to be the Rays this season, or not in this season, but in general. That the Yankees pretty much really appreciate the Rays philosophy and are trying to do things as much that way as they can.
Ego.
See, it would work if it was like Donald just whispered. If it wasn't for Cashman's ego, it would work.
Yeah.
If they had a proper manager, it would work.
Right.
You need to have. Thank you. Once in a while, I'll get it right. So, that's my one for the week. It took till Friday, but no, it does. But we've been screaming about that, since day one here, and the Rays are who they are because they can execute. They don't have the money to go and spend to work on, get the bigger bat to star. They'll build up the stars and then move on from them. And for some reason, their player development, which also outshines the Yankees, is able to always have that next guy to stand up, to come through. Yeah. Like when they brought up Wander Franco last year, and Adames was put on the move, they were like, "Oh, the Rays gave up on the season." How do you move Willie Adames? He was playing so well for them. Now you're going to take a chance on this guy, and Wander Franco just kind of took it by storm. Who saw a Rosarina coming out the way that he
I was just thinking about that.
It doesn't matter who they bring up. They can bring up the bat boy; they'll perform better.
They'll kill the Yankees.
That's just the way it is. We have to accept that the Rays are smarter than us.
Yeah.
That's just a fact. And they've proven. We've proven that they're smarter than us, because even when we tried their plan to the letter, we still can't do it. Hence, let's go game 2 of the postseason when they took out half to put in Garcia. Over again, they have tried to beat the Rays and they just can't do it.
No.
Knock it off. Go back to what the Yankees are supposed to be.
That's what I say.
I'd hug you if I could, Tats. You're
pitcher.
Right, man. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You brought fire on a Friday.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
100% agree, man. That's absolutely spot on. The thing is, you don't even need to outsmart the Rays. I mean, I think that analytics are analytics, and the more the Yankees use, the more I hate it, right? But if you look at it, the Yankees got Blake from, I believe, Cleveland, right? And he's brought an outside organization influence to the way that he's managed the pitching staff. And look how good our pitching staff is, right? Now, what have the Yankees done in terms of their offense? They called up someone from their own system, and you're relying on their own analytics, whatever it is, and it's just not working. So I think that the way as Rob has always said, the way the Yankees interpret the analytics is what the problem is, rather than analytics itself. And I think the Yankees are over-reliant on it, and they use it as a crutch, and they use it as a way, as an excuse They just say, this is the way it is, whether you like it or not, this is the way it's going to be. And I don't think that's the way that you should ever approach an organization or sports or management or anything.
No.
There's an ego to it. I think Brian Cashman doesn't want to win by, say, the way that the Dodgers do it. I think that he feels he's better than that. He wants to say that he's won the right way. So he's going to do it by trying to be smarter than the Rays. He's going to try and do it that way. And it's gone completely pear-shaped for him. And he's digging himself a deeper and deeper hole as he keeps trying to outsmart the Rays. I mean, as Tats brought up, I'll never forgive Cashman for the Debbie Garcia opener. And it wasn't just because it was the dumbest move and one of the dumbest moves in playoff history. But it was actually the fact that he doubled and trebled down on it after the fact.
Yeah.
Well, in that press conference, all you needed to do is just have after they blew the playoffs. All you had to do is a mea culpa and go, we're gonna look at how we could have done things better, and we're gonna look to fix it next year. Instead, he brought a binder with him, and then he started throwing Jay Happ under the bus and Debbie Garcia under the bus, and then it was everybody else's fault and not him. He did everything right. And I was watching this going, oh no, this organization is completely broken and it will never get fixed. And
Zero accountability.
And that's it. There's no accountability. And that's why we're at this stage here. There's no accountability. And Cashman just continues to beat his own drum and keep puffing himself up. And there's absolutely no mention of the organization or how it's going to win or how it's going to get better or any kind of accountability. I mean, leadership is about accountability. And he's not shown any of that. So I'm very upset about that. But that's where we're at the moment. Anyway, it needs to change, man. But we don't need to outsmart the Rays. The last time the Yankees won was by just spending money. It's not a cure-all. You need to.
No, but that's why the Yankees always had to hear that you buy your championships. That's all we ever heard.
Yeah, but the Cashman's ego is what's stopping him because he doesn't like hearing that, and that's why he's trying to do the opposite. But it's not working for him.
And it's trickling down to the manager as well, and not just Boone, but towards the end with Girardi as well. They've broken the formula for what a good manager does, and you can't get to playoffs. You can't get the trophy at the end by an Excel spreadsheet. And that's literally what they're doing right now. I keep harping on this, pitching budget thing, and literally saw what looked like a spreadsheet on the wall in the dugout. I know that there's always been, charting of some sort. You see that all the time, or I did, for the decades I've been alive. Keep knocking my age lately, but it's true. I'll own it. But there used to be instinct, and now we have managers that are robots and puppets. And I'll speak specifically to the Yankees. And maybe it's only us, but there's no trust. So with leadership, aside from accountability, comes trust. You have to trust the people beneath you and use them to consult with. And it's a reverse dynamic in this organization.
And that includes Aaron Boone. I mean, I don't rate him as a manager, but the way the Yankees treat him as a manager is actually disgraceful. I know they've re-upped him, but they've only re-upped him in order just to answer for Brian Cashman and the Yankees' philosophy, which is wrong. Trust him. If you believe that he's your manager and he's the best manager on the market, which Brian Cashman lied to us and said, then show it to us. Trust him to make the moves. Trust him to pick the lineups. Trust him to make the moves in game. And trust him to say what he actually wants to say after the game. Trust him to manage these players how he sees fit. Not how the organization sees fit, not how Brian Cashman sees fit. How he sees fit, because that is how a manager manages. Right. And that is what would fix a lot of the problems, because I don't believe Aaron Boone is as stupid as he makes himself look to be. I really don't. I mean, he doesn't come across well, but I'm sure that he can't possibly be this dumb.
No, it's just the perception of it because of all the all his stupid catchphrases. He's turning the corner. He's turn. With all of them.
He's put in that position.
Yeah,
and he's been the scapegoat of the major leagues because of it.
Yeah.
He's the laughing meme of baseball, really, and it's really a shame.
Question.
Wait.
I would have said, I will say it quickly, is if I was Aaron Boone's agent, I would have told him to go to the Padres in the offseason to find an organization that treats him better. Probably a fan base which should treat him better, and certainly an organization which should trust him more, because this one doesn't. Because he just, all he is a mouthpiece, and I don't think that's fair on anyone. Sorry, Chris.
No, that's all right. I think it's frightening, actually, if you think of the possibility of Cashman not being here and Boone not being here, and Hal going out and into the world and replacing these guys. That'd be even worse. Who could we trust Hal to go out and get that we would approve of? I mean, not that that's maybe a reason for keeping Cashman around, but it scares me to think what Hal could do even more.
That's a valid.
It's a great point. And I think he knows that. That's why he doesn't want to do anything. I think he knows that better than anyone.
Yeah, you don't hear any names in the mix of who could be the next man up, which is another fun catchphrase of Boone's. Who would be the next man up as the GM for the Yankees? There's really, I think anybody would do better, but will the Yankees trust anybody else to do better?
Now, here's going to be a polarizing question I'm going to ask you guys. The 2999, Aaron Boone, deliberately walking, because this was a hot topic last night around all of baseball, all the league, and Twitter, and fans. What are you guys thinking? Aaron Boone deliberately walks Cabrera. Are you for it? Are you against it? Let's go. It's going to be fun.
All right, I'll go first. I thought it was the right baseball move. It really was. It sucks that it took away the opportunity of those fans that were there to see 3,000. But Boone's first job is to try to win the ball game. The mistake in that was the guy that was on deck, Austin Meadows, who, when he was with the Rays, killed us all the time. So you walk the guy to prevent him to take a bat out of his hands, which, again, any baseball move will tell you that's the right move to make. Miguel Cabrera was hitting very well in the series. He was 5 hits. He got 4 hits. He had yesterday, the middle game. He had a great game. But when you have Austin Meadows, I think that's where you start putting doubt into it. Where you have a guy that's been able to hit the Yankees well and is familiar with the Yankees pitching staff, I think that was where you start second guessing the walk. But I think 9 out of 10 times you do make that move. You intentionally walk that player.
Okay.
I agree. I mean, I don't care if Miggy gets 3,000 hits today. I mean, he's going to get them tomorrow against another team. I'm happy for Miggy, but I don't think, like, Jordan Montgomery doesn't want to be on the highlight reels for the next 30 years, giving up that 3,000th hit, So I thought Boone did the right thing, and the fans, fuck them. It's Detroit. Oh. Sorry about that.
There's no 7-second rule here. Chris, you're fine.
Edit that
out. So for me, I think that so in terms of the fans, that really sucked. But you know what? It also sucked for the fans in game 1 and 2 as well. And it'll suck for the fans today if the same thing happens. That's baseball, Susan. You can't tack that on Boone. Cabrera, had a really great series, but he also missed opportunities early in the game.
Yep.
As well. So, and to his credit, when the crowd went wild and he was walking back to the dugout, you saw him telling them to cool out and pointing to the scoreboard and saying, "We're going to win this," and so And even if what he says about that is talking points in the interviews, because it's been all the right responses about it. Yeah, I do think it was surprising because Boone is not known for his guts. And it was a gutsy, people-pleasing kind of dilemma for, Mr. Kumbaya, right?
Yeah.
And so, but it was good to see manager chops for a change. It did make sense in that lens. But to your point, Tats, he wasn't smart managing because he didn't look at the bigger picture. And you just said what Boone should have been thinking, because that was not only the demise of 3000 yesterday, it was our demise as well, for the one little tiny window we had left to win.
Yeah, it really was a pick your poison type moment, and I think it was a no-win situation for Boone right there. It really was. But Donald, close it out with your thoughts on the intentional walk.
Well, I actually will go the opposite way. I think he managed scared. I think that you could have just answered all the questions by facing up to Cabrera, going for it, right? You show your best stuff, you give me your best stuff. Mano a mano. See what you got. And if the Yankees come out of it, then the Yankees don't have everybody looking around the league going, oh, the Yankees are scared. They kind of managed afraid, but also I know that I'm in the minority, but you go through Twitter and most Yankee fans are pretty much in agreement with what Aaron Boone did. But what I will say is that they're all saying that Boone was managing to win. And that's what really frustrates me, because that is such a contradiction, because Aaron Boone has managed to lose for about 2 years because he punts games. He punts series by resting guys down the line. And now all of a sudden last April, the Yankees didn't seem like they cared about their results. Now they suddenly care about one at bat in April. I mean, look at the lineup that they sent out the day before, a couple of days ago, against Baltimore, when they had like 5 guys that probably minor league hitters, all one after the other. So for miss me with this idea that Aaron Boone is managing to win, and also the bigger picture is, as Lynn says, Meadows hits the Yankees pretty damn well the last couple of years, and so it's pick your poison. I would have gone after Cabrera, and so be it. If he hits 3000, so be it. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to trust your pitcher, and you have to have faith that you can face their best pitcher, their best hitters, and get the job done. I mean, it's almost like the way that it's been painted was that by him simply walking him, it saved the Yankees game. No, the Yankees lost anyway. And anyway, 1 run is like 15 runs anyway for the Yankees. So I would have just gone for it. And it certainly would have been a better image around the league. I know no one really cares about that, but I think it's a better image for the league, for the Yankees' reputation, that they ain't scared by anybody. But they played scared, they managed scared, and they lost scared. And that's what annoyed me. So I think it was just the way that Aaron Boone is as a manager and as a person, frankly. So I don't really have any. I'm actually, to be honest, deep down, kind of glad that karma came back and bit him for that, because you manage like that, you deserve what you get, as far as I'm concerned.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap things up for us today. Donald, I think that actually was a very good point, because it's not like you would just, making an excuse. When you come in an argument with somebody that doesn't see your specific point of view, as long as you could articulate your point well, that's where you get the healthy discussion from. So
yeah,
remember that in life. That's going to wrap things up for us today. Just remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what you thought about the intentional walk on Miggy in the comments. And check us out on sportname.com/player. Northeast Streaming Sports on Roku. Check us out. All right. Wear your pinstripes with pride and play hard.